Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Love All. I had a great day yesterday, Blair. I saw you in New York for the first time since we started hosting the podcast together. So that was really nice.
We did our first in-person meeting. And Kim, can I give our listeners a dramatic retelling of what that looked like?
Please.
So we're out on court 13, and anyone who has been to the US Open during Fan Week, and we're going to talk more about what that's like a little bit later in the episode, but it's packed, it's crowded. There are things happening. There are tons of people in the stands. Kim is out watching a qualies match, and I knew which court she was on, so I knew where I needed to get. So I am entering this little mini stadium. Kim is exiting the stadium. There are like 6 people surrounding her wanting photos, and Kim and I see each other just go in for the big, giant bear hug, a long, warm embrace. We are hysterically laughing because it's been the weirdest thing to talk multiple times per week, to see each other on the podcast screen, and we are just hysterically laughing. So hard that I cramped, my side cramped.
And I almost peed myself laughing. It felt really nice to give you a real hug, Blair. That was nice. You're not just on my screen and not an AI character or something. You're actually real. It
was such a delight. I almost asked the random fan standing next to you, hey, can you send me that picture of us hugging that you just took? Of us. Yeah. Anyway, so it was a really neat moment. And yeah, it happened amongst the people. So great to be reunited. Obviously, we had seen each other before we started this podcast, but did not know each other as well as we know each other now. So it was true delight.
Yes. I want more of it.
Yeah, I know. Same. Well, we're going to get it, Kim, because we're going to see a lot of each other this week in particular, because we, of course, have Roger Federer and Mary Carillo's Hall of Fame induction coming up this weekend. You, in fact, are Mrs. President, Miss President. I don't know what the technical term is. So excited to see lots of you this week, Kim. And yeah, lots of tennis to discuss. They're all the pre-US Open things, the buzz, the excitement, the energy, as all the players love to say. That's probably the word I hear most in interviews over the course of the next 3 weeks. The energy, the buzz, all the things. So it's really true, right?
It is very true. Just walking around the site yesterday, the first round of quali started, and it feels like I love doing this. I went to the French Open during the week of qualies, and just to walk around and kind of get a feel for what that's like, and, experiencing players, seeing them playing, at a Grand Slam for the first time. And I just really enjoyed seeing that yesterday. I went to watch, like you said before, court 13, Jeline van Drommel, who was the junior girls final winner last year, is now playing on the women's draw in the qualies for the first time. So just there's so many exciting moments, and some really interesting names and that are in the draw that I was so shocked by, that I didn't realize we're playing qualies. And so yeah, it's such a fun experience. I mean, there was, at times I thought it's kind of a little bit loud. You had everything on the stage happening. There was people singing, but then you literally behind the stage, you have players playing matches. And so I was a little confused during a few of the matches where it got so loud, but it's the energy is amazing, and it's so fun to see, and the crowd, it's packed to the brim, everything, all the stands, in between the courts, it's full. People are lining up to get free little things at the stores on site. So it's really good energy.
For sure. And we're going to talk about that more in detail a little bit later. We're also going to talk about Cincinnati today. We know that happened a few days ago, but we're going to talk about it in terms and in the context of the US Open coming up. We're also going to talk about Carlos Alcaraz's practice that I happen to be present for, one of the 2 that he's had here so far. Some US Open practices in general, US Open predictions, of course, because Kim, I hate to inform you, we are in fact going to have to fill out another bracket in the coming days. Another serve bracket. I hope you all are ready to fill out your served brackets because you will undoubtedly be better than we are, but we are going to do our best. So we're going to start with Cincy when we come back. Okay, Kim, in Cincinnati, Coco Gauff defeated Jessica Pegula 2-4 in 1 hour and 14 minutes to capture her 12th career title. It was the tournament's first All-American WTA final since 1970, which about blew my mind, which is incredible. And just a really incredible display from both Jess and Coco throughout the entire week. And I'm curious what you saw watching them.
I was very impressed by Coco. I feel throughout the week, I felt there was a different energy about her on the court. There was a confidence that I just felt was in her body language, in the way, she's always been an incredible mover and probably the best mover out there. But I feel like when her first two shots of the rally are going great, and she's been a great returner, at times, you could like kind of argue that the forehand return, could kind of set her off in a little bit of a negative at the start of the rally. But I feel like this tournament, she looked so much more confident. And when she's able to return well with the forehand, the serve looked incredible. I feel like when she just looked more confident in her first two shots of the rally, and I think that's what sets her up, and it creates like a freedom into her shots, and just a lot more assertive with the forehand, a lot more aggressive than I've ever seen her play. So the combination with Coco of hitting the heavier forehand that she has, right? She hits it with a little bit of topspin, it pops up. A lot of the players don't like that. And then the combination with, where she can also be a little bit more aggressive and go for the winners, and is a deadly weapon, I feel like, coming off of Coco's racket now. So really nice to see that. I feel like, all the work that she's put in, and probably the critics that have, the answers, the questions that she's had to answer over time about the serve, about the forehand, is that it's all kind of falling into place, and that the hard work is paying off.
Yeah, well, as we all remember, it's the 1-year anniversary of Coco Gauff firing Matt Daly, who she won Roland Garros with, I believe, and then hiring Gavin McMillan, the biomechanics expert. We saw them on court, on the practice court at last year's US Open. We saw Coco in tears during matches last year, and it was tough to watch, because you have this player who we've seen so full of joy, and she was the first to admit she was miserable on the court. It was not the fun game. That's also a job, of course, that she had grown up loving. And she actually, this is a bit of a longer quote, but I would love to read what she said in press after winning Cincinnati, because I feel like it gives a lot of context to the move last year and then how far she's come. I think I talked in last week's episode about how during my media day interview with her, we were talking about the fact that this year has been an exercise in trusting the process. And so I'm going to read this quote because it sort of goes alongside that. I think last year I was just frustrated with my game, and I felt like I was declining. It's not something any player wants to feel. You always want to feel like you're getting better, or at the worst, just plateauing. So last year I was in a weird predicament. I made sudden decisions that most people probably wouldn't do before a slam, and I think it was worth it. I feel like it's night and day where I am from last year to now. Gavin and JC, her other coach, Pharrell, have done a great job kind of reworking my mind and reminding me of the player I am. I think I lost that a little bit, maybe sometimes feeding into the noise of some people who are saying I was lucky to win certain titles and things like that. Now I'm in the mindset that I deserve everything I've gotten so far, and I've worked really hard for it. A lot of context.
Very, very deep. It gives you a lot of it gives you a lot more than I think a lot of players, when they're going through the struggles, are willing to share at the time. So for her to open up and to share, which she does, like, I feel like she's very open and very wise when she explains kind of some of her deeper kind of moments and on the negative side. And I love that she is able to articulate it so well. And it just shows, like, it through sports, and especially in tennis, right? Everything happens in the spotlight, and you go through the emotions. Like, we've seen her from when she was 15 years old, and this, player who had nothing to lose and played freely to a player that everybody wants to beat, and that is, one of the potential champions to win, every tournament where she gets to. And I think you have to learn to deal with those moments, the pressures, the critics. Like, everything is just louder when you're at the top of the game, and the expectations are higher. So for her to go through it, for her to have the team around her that is able to kind of make her, stay grounded, put in the work, and like you said, like trust the process. And it's a great lesson. It's a great life lesson, really. And I really love that for her, and it's a great mindset to get into at the start of the US Open.
Well, speaking of things that were said in press, Jess Pegula, who had another incredible week at 32 years old, potentially playing some of the best tennis of her career, she was talking about how changing direction is one of the things that she does best. She also absorbs pace well, and those two things I think can go hand in hand. But it made me want to ask you, Kim, for somebody who's listening who likes to play tennis, in terms of the changing of direction, I think sometimes you maybe tell recreational players, steady cross court, just hang cross court till you get the ball that you want. But the best players know how to change direction and when to change direction. And I was hoping that you could shed some light on both of those things.
Sure. And I don't think that it's just on the amateur tour that people like to play cross courts. Like I see it, and I've seen it in my career when I played, practice with players. Like there's players that love just hitting cross courts and can do it for 30 minutes at a time and just really get stuck into that rhythm, because it is a really nice feeling, when you're into that routine of, the sound and the rhythm of hitting shots, and you can maybe hit some targets. But I remember very well when I started, and I think Vika Azarenka was somebody who was very good at changing direction, especially with the backhand down the line. It is so unpredictable, to like, there's certain patterns that players have. And I feel with Jess, she's so good to change directions, but it's so unpredictable because you can't tell with the way that she moves her forearm or wrist. Like, it's not that she, moves her upper body with it. Like, there's players who you can tell if they're going, into change directions of the ball. And with her, it's just very, very unpredictable. It's to break up a pattern. When I was younger, I learned, to try to be the first one to change directions, but you have to feel comfortable. Like, you have to feel comfortable with hitting that backhand down the line. It's just a lot more easy for your system or for your body to keep going in that cross court. But it's just a big, it's a disguise if you can do it well. And it just sets up, it breaks the rhythm of your opponents. And I think that's where Jess is so good at. Is I also think that she's moving better than she's ever been. I feel like she's, still growing. And in the quote of Coco saying, like, at least you want to be plateauing and or get better. I still feel that Jess keeps getting better and better. And that's really nice to see. So it's a great thing that that Jess has. It's one of her strongest qualities, is the fact that she's able to stay so low all the time and change direction.
Okay, another player that I want to discuss with you, Kim, Sara Bejlek, another Czech player, young, exciting, fun, so dynamic on the court, beat Aryna Sabalenka, beat Madison Keys, reached the semifinals. What did you like about her game?
I mean, she's another lefty, right? Which is why I think she makes it so hard for a lot of the players. She reminds me a little bit of the French Open finalists of this year, Maja Schwalinska.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's that, she's not the tallest player, right? But the quick feet, the movement, the ability to move so well from side to side. It's that kind of, I say, it's like that pit bull kind of mentality, like never wanting to give up a point, like trying to run everything down. And I saw it against Sabalenka. I was watching the match, and just the ability to bring one or two extra shots back against players who like to hit the ball hard and are expecting at times for the points to be over a little bit sooner. Like, it throws them off at times. And she was able to really do that. She is a great mover. The lefty serve, it's maybe not the best serve, but the lefty serve just tricks players out because of the effect. Bounce is a little bit different. It's a little bit harder to read. So she's so fun to watch. And again, another Czech player that we can add to the list. It's incredible.
I was just double checking her age, just 20 years old. And I do have to mention the fact that when I watched her and watched how she was sliding on the hard court, and she might not have the Kim Clijsters flexibility, but there was some of that athleticism on display. So it was reminiscent, at least. It was fun.
Yeah, no, I love, and I think that's also why she got like a lot of the crowd to really cheer for her is because she really gives it her all for every point. And you hear the squeaking of the shoes when she's sliding and running back. And it's she's a really fun player to watch. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like when you've, beaten some really good players in a lead up tournament to the US Open in Cincinnati. And if she's able to kind of use that here and kind of stick to that same level and cause some damage in the draw here.
Before we move on, I just want to say shout out to the short girls out there. So love that Sara Bejlek is 5'3", I believe. I am 5'4", which brings me back to my one and only win at the US Open when I had a height off with Jasmine Paolini. I am taller than Jessica Pegula. So I'm 1-0 at the US Open as far as that's concerned. So we love to see, and that is honestly one of my favorite things about tennis, to be honest, the fact that there is no stereotypical body type. You can be so many different variations of a woman, and you could be successful on the tennis court, which we love.
Definitely. And a lot of it comes with the mindset too, right? Is like just putting in the work and fighting until the very last shot. And that's what I love seeing too.
All right. Last Cincinnati note, Arthur Fils. It was before I move on to why that final was cool, he got his first ATP Masters 1000 title. May not have a driver's license yet, but he does have a Masters 1000 title. And it was the first Masters 1000 final contested between two Black players since the series began in 1990, which was a really cool moment. And I want to shout out the journalist who asked Frances about this in press, also a Black journalist who does incredible work. Tumani Carillo writes for The Guardian, and I think is one of the best journalists in tennis. So I thought it was really special that he asked the question. Frances gave a great answer about this, and you ended up with just two incredibly charismatic players and a really cool new winner.
Very, very cool. And I think I was as surprised as Frances. He was like, really? Like, I'd never thought of that. Right. And that's how I felt. Like, I felt like, wow, that's, obviously on the women's side, I'm sure we've had, Venus and Serena play each other, but to see it on the men's side it's really, really cool. So I'm very, very excited that, there was history made on that side, and great for these guys to be able to, play great tennis, both kind of in very different stages of their career as well. So it's a nice story. And it's just exciting to see how they can take this with them into the US Open, because they're both, super explosive players, super physical players, and everything is a lot harder at the US Open. So I'm just always very curious to see how these guys who put so much work and physicality into their matches, if they're capable of doing this, 7 matches in a row to win a slam here.
And I have to just note, I cannot remember if I said this last week, but when Frances came through media day and was explaining that he had a cyst drained in his wrist, I think maybe 4 or 5 days before he was sitting there in front of me, he was not at all convincing that he was even going to play the tournament. So to reach the final, his second final in Cincinnati, was an incredible effort, and hopefully bodes well for his US Open performance.
Yeah, sometimes distractions help.
Right? Or do you think that's maybe a low expectations thing?
Yeah, I think it may be a little bit of a freedom, or just a little bit less pressure, because there's pressure from the outside world, but you also put pressure on yourself. And I think when you've had an injury, or you don't really expect much of the tournament, you're excited to be there, there's maybe a little bit more of a freedom. Like, I've definitely had that experience before, where I had a little bit of a muscles issue, or a small tear or strain or whatever it was, and you decide to play, and you're just not too stressed out about doing everything perfectly.
Right. Interesting. The psychology of that is pretty fascinating. If I get a chance to talk to Frances, I'll have to ask him if he thought that added to his freedom last week. We talked a little bit about Fan Week at the top of the show, Kim, but you mentioned some of the players that you saw playing qualies yesterday that surprised you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that Qinwen Zheng was in qualies as well. So just for Fan Week, like the people that get to go out and watch it, walk in on the grounds for free. Like there's so much entertainment outside as well. But Qinwen Zheng, you have Bianca Andreescu, like a former champion here, like playing qualies. It's so exciting to be able to be so close to the courts. I loved watching Jolien van Drommel yesterday. She played another Belgian against Greet Minne. It's so fun. Like I think there's so many exciting stories for players that are trying to get their ranking up, like a Qinwen Zheng or Bianca Andreescu, to players who are there for the first time playing in the women's, US Open qualies, and it's really, really fun to see. And so the excitement is great. And I don't know, on the men's side, I didn't really watch that much men's tennis yesterday, but just a lot of fun. And Jolien van Drommel now plays against Montgomery, one of our
a friend of the pod.
A friend of the pod. So I'm excited to see that next second round qualies coming up tomorrow.
I last night stopped by the practice office here at the US Open. My friend Haley oversees the practice court desk, also does a ton for the American players. She is fantastic at her job. She is a regular listener to Love All. So hi, Haley, have the best US Open. But I stopped by her office last night. I was in there with tournament director Eric Budarak and one of their other staff members in the office. They were looking at the practice courts for tomorrow, seeing where the top players were going to end up. And we had a monitor up and Coleman Wong was playing, and it was, I don't know which court it was packed. And Eric said, how cool is this, that this is a qualies match and this looks on TV like it easily could be a main draw match. And to know that now, if you play qualies at the US Open, you are feeling, it's not like you're at Orangi Park. You are feeling, at Wimbledon, you're feeling like you are in a main draw match. It has the atmosphere. You might hear music from the stage, but you are going to get atmosphere, which I think is such a neat experience for players, whether you're in qualifying or main draw. But how cool.
Very, very cool. And it, for the players, it means so much to have this opportunity. A lot of players have never played in front of this many people as well. So it's just a really, really cool vibe and cool energy. And it gives the first timers kind of the immediate feeling of like, oh, what is the US Open like? Like, why does each Grand Slam feel different? Well, this is the US Open. This is what you get. And it's so fun. And I walked into the players area for the first time, and it is busy, right? Like you have all the qualifiers, you have a lot of the main draw players that are here already. So it's super busy. And I walked in and I was like, whoa, like, why is it so busy here? And then everybody was kind of looking at the same direction towards where like the tournament, like Eric's office is. And then I look over and then I saw Roger Federer, like he was in there. So all the players, like all the qualifiers are like waiting, like they want to see Roger. And I was like, oh, that's why. So it was, you get everything together. And that's what I love about the sport is you literally have a, 17-year-old playing their first qualifying match, and then you have Roger Federer, who is playing an exhibition match there tomorrow with some of the greatest Americans to play the sport. And so to see that combination, it's so inspirational, and so it was fun to kind of get a feel for that energy out there.
And it's not what it used to look like, is it, Kim?
No, it's not. I definitely don't remember it being like this. It was a lot more quiet back in the day, but it still means as much, right? Like I think for the players, the feeling that you get like playing your qualies for the first time and playing, even if there's not many people sitting on the side, like it's still an exciting experience to be a part of, and you're trying to kind of just chip away one match at a time and qualify and try to reach that goal. So I heard players, I was in the players area, players are talking about like, 140,000 if you get to the main draw, like the prize money is a huge, step up again this year. So players are definitely looking at those things. And I hear there's a lot of perks that I think the US Open is giving out this year as well to the players. And
I'm trying to find a key to the gifting suite, Kim. If anything goes missing, it might have been me, because
check your bag.
Such a good job here at the US Open, making the players feel special. And Qualies Week has always been free, but just the fact that they built this party around the tennis, and people understand. And, most people, if they are courtside at a qualies match, they are seeing world-class tennis up close and personal. And sometimes that can even be a better experience than, I don't know, watching Carlos Alcaraz from the upper deck in Ash. It is so cool to be that close. And you can have your lobster roll, your honey deuce, and watch some tennis. It used to be that, maybe some of the vendors were open. You could get a hot dog while you watched.
Yes.
These days you can get first class service and also watch some tennis. So very neat.
Blair, when I travel with my family, a lot of times I'm either whether it's ChatGPT or just Google, okay, I'm in this city. What is there to do, right? So if there's families that are looking for a fun day out before school starts, go to the Open. It's such an amazing experience, and it will definitely be a day to never forget for the kids.
I agree. Well, in addition to qualies matches, Kim, there are practices galore. And I had Carlos Alcaraz on my practice court a couple of days ago. It was his first practice since the site had opened so that fans got to watch. It was 2 hours on Armstrong. It was all with his brother, the Hottie bracket winner, Alvaro. Who I definitely introduced myself to and said, I just wanted to say hello in person to the Hottie bracket winner.
And congratulations.
Congratulations. He was tickled. Anyway, so he was with Alvaro and Samu Lopez, I believe. And so it was a mostly fed practice. This to me,
explain to people what that means.
Yes,
fed.
Yes. Okay. So typically, with these practices, I have for instance, yesterday you had Matteo Arnaldi practicing with Lorenzo Musetti, or you had Danny Merida practicing with Alex de Minaur. So you have two players whose coaches or agents talk to each other. They plan a time to go out and hit. They get a practice in. It is fairly unusual during this lead up to the US Open week to see a player out with just a coach where most of the balls are being fed to him out of a basket. Or he did some 2-on-1s as well with Samu and Alvaro, but for the most part, he was getting balls fed to him. So initially I was thinking, I don't know that is a great sign. And then your response was, yes, for his wrist, correct? Yeah. Because a reminder, he has been out since Barcelona. So a little over 4 months. He's had that wrist inflammation issue, and we are hoping to see him this week with Serena for mixed doubles, and then next week in main draw of singles.
Yeah, it can be unusual. I also think knowing a little bit of, what the Spanish tennis culture, coaching culture is like I think they love feeding balls. And feeding balls means there's a big basket with a ton of tennis balls in it, and the coach stands kind of on the service line and just feeds a lot of balls, and you get a repetition. Sometimes I loved getting balls fed to me when I was able to really, if I felt like I needed the fine tuning, if I felt like my placement was a little bit off, if I felt like, hey, my open stance just don't feel right, whatever it is, it just gives you repetition of, 20, 30 shots in a row where you feel like, okay, my brain is starting to get used to this again. And when you're playing against, or when you're playing match, a practice set or whatever, or tiebreak, you just don't get that enough. And maybe it's something just very innocent, and it's he just wants a little bit more repetition of certain shots. Or maybe it is still to kind of get, the wrist strong enough, or the impact, the impact of the shots, the wrist can't handle it maybe yet. So, and I don't think he would be here if that was still the case, or if this is where he would be in his recovery. The fact that he's going to play mixed doubles, I think it's great that he has the opportunities this week to start, hitting some returns against hard hitting, guys on the other side of the net. And I think it's a good test for him. And then, again, I don't think he would be here if his wrist wasn't ready to go. So I just do think it was maybe just fine tuning the rhythm a little bit.
Okay. I love this positive outlook. I'm the pessimist in our duo.
Well, we'll see. But maybe he doesn't even show up this week for mixed doubles.
Who's to say? We'll find out today. We're recording this on Tuesday. But I do want to add that I had the chance to talk to Carlos after his practice, did a few questions for the fans that were there, and there were many of them. So So I asked if it was a hard decision with the risk to come back at the US Open. And he said, I did have to really be careful about what I decided to do here because it's best of 5. A slam is best of 5. And so that's obviously more pressure, more stress on a body part that has not gotten a ton of pressure and stress over the past 4 months. So I thought that was refreshingly honest to admit that. And then I also asked about mixed doubles, and he said he felt so honored that Serena wanted to play with him and that they have been texting about which side they should play on and about their strategy.
Important to know.
Right, exactly. But it made me wonder, Kim, which side do you think Carlos will play on? Which side do you think Serena will play on? Because I wanted to follow up, but I only got 3 questions and I'm a rule follower. So I didn't want to break the rules and follow up with one more, or else I would have asked. What do you think?
Well, you would assume that the guy will play on the ad side.
You would assume.
Well, you would assume. But then, Serena is such a good returner, and her precision on the return, especially in doubles, has always been very, very good. So I don't even think it would really matter between the two of them, whether if Carlos, I think maybe they're communicating amongst each other about what would be better for his wrist. Like maybe, the flick of the wrist with the forehand or the backhand is maybe a little bit, I don't know. Maybe on one side it's a little bit better for him. But I really don't think it would matter too much between the two of them.
All right. Last thing for you, Kim, on this topic. Thinking back to your week before the US Open specifically, because I feel like sponsor obligations, appearances, everything is sort of in overdrive. And I was wondering if you have any memories of that and how challenging it is to juggle. Taylor Fritz was on court yesterday and said, yeah, I'm here practicing early in the day because I have so many things I have to do in the afternoon. There are a lot of obligations, I'm not going to lie. So what was that like for you? And how do you sort of balance all of that plus focusing on trying to be fit for the US Open?
Yeah, I think it was, for me, most importantly, I wanted to do what was the most important, and that was make sure that I was ready tennis and physically, my game was ready to go. But, with the team, and you discussed the WTA, ITF, like the USTA, there's definitely a lot more tasks to do. And I didn't like to do them, right before, I was supposed to play, or a couple of days before. So I tried to do it earlier in the week. It was also later, I think, on in my career that I decided to not play anything the week before. I felt like when I was younger, I wanted to play more matches and get more routines in. And so then it can be a little bit cramped, especially the day before, because, you had the host broadcast who wanted to film some things as well in the lead up. But I do think it just feels a lot more busy now, like walking around there. And I don't know if it's social media or that there is a lot more, maybe more than back in the day, like attention, media attention on the sport. But it's it definitely does feel a lot more busy than back in the day. And the biggest difference for me, which was, if you go to the US Open and you're a defending champion, like that's when there's another added, kind of list of attention that you never really, that I never experienced before until I was able to kind of be in that moment. So, but you kind of also feel honored in a way, right? In that sense, but you just try to not get distracted by it all and make sure that you focus on what you got to do. And I never really, it's not like back in the day. Now I feel like there's so many things going on into the city as well, where, a lot of players are busy in the city. I feel like for me back in the day, it was a lot more like on site, and I could kind of plan it whenever it fits. But then you have, your sponsors for the next year that want to start doing photo shoots and things like that. So it's sometimes hard, but it's a part of it, and they're a part of your team as well, and they're really trying to work with what's best for the player.
Did you have a go-to modeling look?
None. Is that an answer? None.
Yes.
Yes.
I was just
none.
curious
Thanks.
if you had like a go-to.
No, Blair. No, I cannot think of anything more weird than posing for a picture. Like, I'm so happy that I played tennis and that I was able to hold a tennis racket and a tennis ball like that. Because still to this day, like, I will grab my kids and like hold them and be like, hey, this is what I'll do with my hands. Like, So no,
Grab a child.
Yes, I'll just grab one of the kids, or like I'll hold Brian or whatever. And it's just more, yeah, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable. It just feels so unnatural to pose to me.
I am right there with you. If somebody it's one thing to take a picture of me doing my job, but if somebody wants me to actually pose for a picture, I could not be more awkward. So, Kim, we have this in common.
Yesterday, Blair, I was sitting in the stands and I was watching Jolien van Drommel play Great Minute, two Belgians, and I'm sitting in the stands, and the guy 2 rows below me looks over. He's like, "Hey, Kim, can I take a picture?" And I was like, "Sure." So I'm kind of getting up thinking that he was going to get up, and he just stayed seated and like took a picture. So I just
like
stood there like, "Oh, we're doing it like this." So I was like, this is awkward. The match is going. Like, it was a very weird, like, so
Listen,
I just smiled and I was like, okay, thanks.
He's got a nice portrait of Kim Clijsters on his phone now. Congrats to that fan. All right, moving on, shall we? Kim, do you have a favorite for the US Open? Let's start with the men.
I don't. I mean, especially, with Sinner now being out, like, I feel like it's so wide open. And I think we talked about this last week, that there's a lot of players that are going to these big tournaments now that believe like, hey, Alcaraz is back, but maybe he's not fully back yet. And Sinner's not in the draw. Like, I have a chance. So it's just really hard to predict. And I don't know, like, you would think on one side, like with Arthur Fils, like playing so well in Cincinnati, but yeah, then I think like, oh, is it maybe too soon for him to win? The battle of the long matches, and but I do think he's a player who loves the energy of New York, and I think he can really rise above himself because of the vibe that New York brings, especially in the night matches. So I'm gonna go with Arthur Fils, just to give an answer to your question, because otherwise my brain goes all over the place and I contradict, or I'll say things that I think like 5 seconds later, yeah, but what if this player, like, there's so many routes this can all go. But I'll go with Arthur Fils on the men's side, and I'm going to stick to a player that I name very often because I just love watching her play and I think she's great, and I'm gonna go with Coco Gauff again.
Okay, well, as an Arthur Fils and Arthur Fils enthusiast, I took it.
You gotta get a little.
You're welcome for that, listeners.
Yes, I'm sorry.
For me learning French on the air. Yes, I would love to see Arthur Fils win the entire. I'm still not getting it, but win the entire thing. He's missed, I believe, 4 of the 5 last slams due to injury. So
back injury, right?
Yes, yeah, and I think he had a couple of different things, but okay. I think in the Masters events that he has played, he has consistently gone deep. And so if he's healthy here at the US Open, I would love to see him be holding the trophy at the end. Do you think Novak could be holding the trophy at the end?
Yes, I also think he has there's an option for that to happen. And I just, in a slam, and because I have experience, like, I feel like so many things have to fall into place. You have to be lucky too, right? Like yeah, like, and I don't know, like you've been around the sport for a long time as well. Like, there's so many surprises that can happen. So it just becomes really, yeah, very unpredictable. And I just find it really hard to, pick names, or just knowing that, because I hated, when I got asked that question back in the day, oh, you just started a tournament, oh, your potential semifinal against Serena or potential semifinal against Justine. Like, yeah, it's just hard to look ahead and because it's so much easier said than done. But I love Arthur Fils, his energy. Like, I love it in the interviews. I love it on the court. I love the energy when he plays. It gives me kind of like Rafa vibes a little bit as well. So I like that energy out on the court. So yeah, a lot of fun to watch.
I'm gonna throw Ben in my mix as well.
Of course,
Ben Shelton.
Yeah. See, like, there's so many names, like Zverev,
Zverev,
right?
Of course. Yes, exactly. And then on the women's side, I thought this was a great tweet from my friend Bastien Fachon, I believe is how another French name that I'm sure I'm butchering. But on X, he's the king of the stats, but he said all of the top 11 women on tour currently hold a big title, so either 1,000 or a slam, which is wild to think about the depth. And I think that underscores why it is going to be next to impossible to try to choose a women's winner. But I do want to know what you think about Aryna Sabalenka. And, after losing to Sara Bejlek in Cincinnati, where do you think she would be mentally coming into the US Open? And can she right the ship here?
I definitely think she can. Does she, is it going to be with full confidence? No, but I do think a player like her, and it reminds me a lot of how Serena could have been. And I'm not saying Serena probably never had stages where she, lost to players that she a few times in a row that she should have beaten. But I do think she has the greatness of a Serena when it comes down to switching, like making the switch. Like she can grow into a tournament. So if she has one or two matches where, she has to really like work her way into the tournament a little bit. But then I think the occasion, the last Grand Slam of the year, the tournament, like I think the energy, I think it's really going to give her another boost. And I think that's, it's hard to describe like what that does to you going to a tournament where you've done well. And so I do think she has it in her to do that, like to step up and to play the big matches really well when it comes down to being on the biggest stages. And so I definitely think she can go all the way here again.
Okay. I would say though, if I had to pick one, Coco would also be my pick. It's just sort of that serenity that you sort of see from her on court that was obviously missing last year, as we discussed, and feeling like she believes and has the belief inside, I think is extremely dangerous. That plus a well-functioning serve, which is what we saw in Cincinnati, I think is a deadly combo for Coco Gauff. So cannot wait. We will have brackets coming soon. Reminder, fill out your served brackets once the draw is released on Thursday.
I used to be really excited about the bracket, and now
we're stressed.
I'm like, yes. It's not that I'm not excited. It's just like the fear of like failing.
I mean, Kim, I am in the same boat with you there. The good news is you are a Hall of Famer and I am not. So
what? It's more embarrassing for me. To do bad? Oh.
No, you're allowed to do bad. I'm the one who has to, justify the fact that I am on this podcast with you.
If I agree. I don't know if I agree. Like, I feel like I should be the one who knows more about this.
I mean, in theory, yes, but I am trying to, justify my occupation.
You're trying to make me feel better. That's what you're trying to do. Thanks, Blair. I appreciate it.
I'm trying.
Maybe we should fill it out together.
We could. That would be fun. Great content for the socials.
Yes.
Okay, Kim, before we leave today, I just want to say I cannot wait to see you at the Hall of Fame induction. It is going to be 3 days of events, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. What are you most looking forward to? Anything in particular?
I feel like, the induction moment itself is kind of the highlight of everything. So seeing Roger and Mary on stage and giving their speeches, I know for a fact like it's going to be emotional, and because they're both such great speakers, they speak from the heart, and that's what I like. So I'm really looking forward to that, like the human side of it all, and to listen to their story right from their mouth, and like we over the years have heard so many people talk about an experience with Roger or, an interview here and there. But now to be able to listen to Roger and for him to explain kind of his journey and the ups and the downs. And I think it's going to be very, very exciting to see him there and his family. And the same for Mary. Like, she's been a woman that's been so great to listen to speak to in interviews, but her energy is something that I've always loved, and she's not like doesn't want to be in the spotlight and doesn't want the show to be on her, but I'm excited to for it to be like that in that moment, and that's my favorite part. What about you?
Definitely the induction for sure. I think every year I go back to the Hall of Fame, I just feel really thankful to be involved with that incredible place. There's no place like it. If you're a tennis fan and haven't been, I tell everyone, make the pilgrimage to Newport, Rhode Island. You will not regret it. Not only the museum, but the grounds and just feeling like you are a part of history. And then also getting to see the way that Hall of Famers react to the Hall of Fame. I think every year, without fail, I don't know if it was like this for you, Kim, but from what I've seen, incoming Hall of Famers who have yet to see the Hall of Fame, and that will be the case for Roger. He has not been physically to Newport yet. It is more emotional than they expect.
It's very overwhelming. And I remember my moment that felt very surreal was seeing the players in the museum on, they're engraved wherever in the buildings, seeing the players that I admired so much, that to me are like my superheroes, right? Like Steffi Graf, Monica Seles, Gabriela Sabatini. Like there's so many that I just loved watching when I was younger. And then to see your name and your pictures and your memorabilia right next to them in the same glass, cabinet, or what do you want to call it, is like it feels very, very surreal. And in my own head, I remember walking around and thinking, oh my God, like, look at this. Like my US Open trophy is right next to a Steffi Graf. And like, remember when like I pretended I was her playing tennis on the driveway? Like that's the movie that goes on in my own head. And I think it's a reflection, because I think as tennis players, you don't have enough time to reflect on everything, because it's such a roller coaster and it's such a fast paced lifestyle. And that it almost only gives you the time. Like I feel like when I was at the induction weekend, it's almost like everything kind of came together, and it's again very overwhelming. So I'm excited to experience that, and that's probably my favorite part about being a part of it is seeing that happen to the Hall of Famers.
Yeah, and knowing that you are a part of the history. That's really cool.
It is. It's very cool. Very, very cool. Again, still at times feels surreal. But it's really, really fun.
Even hearing you talk about it gives me the chills. So there's a moment in one of the events that we're doing, that I'm hosting, where I get to ask all the Hall of Famers who are present to stand and be recognized. And I am already just imagining what that moment is going to be like, because as you might imagine, there are many Hall of Famers coming back to the Hall of Fame for this particular induction. Yeah. And just to see them all stand up is going to be a really incredible moment, I think.
Yes, like to me, and I don't know if it's because the stage, like the age that I have now, like you saying that and me trying to imagine, I can already, like, I get teary eyed. Like it's so yeah, just thinking how that's going to be like. And even for me, like, I'm trying to just let it surprise me. I don't know what's happening the weekend. I kind of know the layout of it, but I'm not sure. Like people are asking me like, oh, who's performing? Who's going to be there? Like which celebrities are going to be there with Roger? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like I don't get involved in it like that. And because I also wanted to feel very, authentic and the team always puts up a great event. So I'm excited to see the surprises that will be there for Roger and Mary, obviously.
Last quick thing, Kim. Do you have a recommendation for this week?
I do have a recommendation.
Okay.
Do you want me to start, or do you want to
Yes, no, you can start.
All right. So last week I had the eye mask, right? That helps with my sleep. I'm guilty sometimes that when I wake up really early and I get and I know that in Belgium, I have emails and all that stuff. I start grabbing my phone and then it's harder to fall back asleep. So I have started putting on my red lens that are really good for the blue light from the phone. So this brand is Roka. I have a pair for you.
So excited.
I'll bring them to the US Open. Listen, you don't have to walk outside with them, Blair. It's literally, if you go to bed at night and you still want to be on your phone or on your computer, you have some work to do. So it just makes your brain kind of not wake up again because of the light. So you wear these red glasses
For those who are listening and not watching, Kim has, so they look like sunglass frames.
Yes.
Black sunglasses frames with a bright red lens. And so I cannot wait to receive mine. We will, in fact, take a picture of ourselves together wearing the red the red lens glasses.
Yep. So
that's a great idea.
They are great, and there's a lot more science has been done behind them, and this is a really good brand. There's some crappy ones out there as well, where it's not protecting you. It just looks like red lenses, but these are legit. They're called Roka, and I'm a fan. And even with the kids now these days, like I feel like my sons, when they have basketball and they come home later at night and they want to, play some whatever game on the computer, I tell them at night to just put this on. There's one next to the computer, and they know, to just put these on. And maybe it's my mom, obviously my mom brain that's like, all right, just put these on. They're right there. Put them on, and then I feel less guilty sending them up to bed from watching the computer.
I love that. That's a great idea. All right. Well, I might need more than one pair, Kim.
Yes. All right.
So, all right. Next, do you have any other recommendations this week, or was
that's
that
it?
Okay. So my recommendation is for anyone coming on site to the US Open over the course of the next 3 weeks who likes to enjoy an adult beverage. As you may know, the Honey Deuce is the signature drink of the US Open. The US Open makes, and I'm estimating, $1 gazillion off of these vodka-based drinks. But for those who are not aware, there are 2 variations. There is the standard Honey Deuce, and as of a few years ago, they also have a frozen Honey Deuce. And to anyone who is considering purchasing one of these, go for the frozen Honey Deuce. Couple reasons. Number one, the biggest reason is if you would like to sip your drink, which I would recommend if you are here at the US Open for hours and hours, I would not recommend chugging. You have the regular Honey Deuce, it has ice in it and the ice melts. And if you are sipping at a responsible pace, by the end, you are going to have a more watery Honey Deuce. You do not have that problem with the frozen Honey Deuce. And it is also much more flavorful, in my opinion, than the regular. So if you would like to partake.
But you do get a brain freeze if you chug it.
Correct. Well, and listen, I'm helping you all be responsible.
Okay.
Because you can sip the frozen Honey Deuce. You do not have to rush because the flavor stays the same as it melts. So there you go. My PSA to all of you who would like to responsibly partake at the US Open.
I have never had any of them. So maybe we need to add that to the schedule too.
Our social list is getting longer by the minute. Red light glasses, try on.
We do everything at the same time.
Perfect. I cannot wait, Kim.
And the drinks.
So much to look forward to. Thank you all for listening to another episode of Love All. We appreciate you. We appreciate everyone who has come up to us to say you love the podcast. Seriously, so many messages. I've taken so many selfies, which is unusual for me, not so unusual for Kim, but just those of you who have appreciated this and who like to hang out with us every week, we appreciate you as well. And we hope you have liked and subscribed and commented and all the things at Love All Podcast. And we will see you all next. Oh, no, we will not see you all next week. We'll see you all after the US Open. We will have so much to download. But in the meantime, we will be on social media. So at Love All Podcast on Instagram and beyond. We'll see you soon.
Bye.